Clash Royale can feel impossible sometimes, not because your deck is bad, but because your opponent knows exactly how to beat your deck. The truth is, almost every single deck in the game follows a predictable strategy if you know what to look for. Today we're going to be breaking down how to counter every single archetype in Clash Royale, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how it works, what they want from you, and how you can flip the matchup in your favor instantly and win way more games in Clash Royale. Coming in at number 1, we got Beatdown. Beatdown is one of the easiest archetypes in Clash Royale to figure out, and also one of the most frustrating to deal with if you let your opponent control the pace. You always know you're facing a beatdown player. They'll spend their first 30 or 40 seconds doing absolutely nothing. No cycling, no pressure, just quietly sitting at full elixir like they're waiting for double elixir to magically hand them a free win. And when it finally arrives, their plan is always the same. Place a huge tank in the back, stack as many troops as possible behind it, and hope you panic once everything starts marching towards your tower. But here's the part most players don't even realize. Beatdown doesn't beat you because it's strong. Beatdown beats you because you let it become strong. If you take control early and deny the setup they're trying to build, Beatdown becomes one of the easiest archetypes in the game to shut down. The entire strategy relies on time and space. Remove one of those and the rest falls apart immediately. The first and the most important rule is simple. Punish instantly when they drop their tank. Whether it's Golem, Giant, Lava Hound, E-Giant, or even the Goblin Giant, you must pressure the opposite lane right away. When they place their tank at the back, they're essentially broke. A Golem leaves them with 2 elixir, a Lava Hound or E-Giant leaves them with 3. Even a Giant doesn't give them much flexibility. During those first few seconds after the tank is played, they cannot defend a proper counter push. Even a small, inexpensive attack forces them to abandon their original push and spend cards they intended to use behind their tank. The second key is protecting your main DPS at all costs. You have one card that actually melts their tank, whether that's the Inferno Tower, Inferno Dragon, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Hunter, or any other high damage unit. If you waste that card on the wrong target, the game is over. Beatdown wins when the tank survives long enough for the support troops to pile up behind it. Your tank killer exists to do exactly that one job, and if you can keep it for that one job, the biggest threat in their push disappears instantly. The third key is splitting their support. Beatdown pushes are dangerous only when the tank and the support troops move as one. If you can pull their units into the middle, drag cards like the baby dragon away, force a lumberjack or the night witch into the opposite lane, you break the formation. Once the push is no longer unified, everything becomes easier to clean up. The real secret is understanding that Beatdown isn't a late game matchup. It's actually an early game matchup if you think about it. Once you stop letting them build the push they want, you take control of the game, and from that point on, the deck loses its identity entirely. Before we move on, make sure to like and hype the video and join the Discord group, which is linked in the description of this video, where we talk about everything. Coming in at number 2, let's cover Brit Spam. Brit Spam is one of the fastest, most relentless archetype in Clash Royale, and the players who use it all share the same mindset, which is to capitalize on bad elixir management or bad micro plays. As far as I've seen, Brit Spam doesn't build big pushes. It doesn't really scale in double elixir like beatdown decks do. Its entire game plan revolves around throwing units at the bridge over and over again while tracking their elixir and cycle, forcing you to respond, and hoping that eventually something sneaks through and connects to your tower where they can overwhelm. Anyone who's played Clash Royale long enough has had this experience. In triple elixir, you defend a bandit on one side, and before you can even reset your focus, a royal ghost appears on the other side. Then suddenly, a ram rider or a battle ram is sprinting down the lane, and while you're juggling all that, the magic archer is lining up a laser shot all the way from the river. So what can I say? Brit Spam is fast, chaotic, and designed to overwhelm players who panic under pressure. But the truth is, Brit Spam only works when you let your opponent dictate the pace. The first key to shutting down Brit Spam is basically playing your defense low and centered. This is the single most important positioning rule in the entire matchup. When you place your defensive troop or building at a lower space and directly in the middle, you interrupt every part of their game plan. This lets both your towers engage, giving you more space and time. The second key is learning how to break the Magic Archer angles. Magic Archer is usually the backbone of many Brit Spam variants because of the insane chip value he gets from good geometry. I've seen so many players lose half their tower because they placed one troop too far to the right and gave the Magic Archer a perfect snipe. Your job is to never give them that opportunity. Avoid playing your troops right in front of your tower, don't stack everything in one line and position your cards where he actually has to work for a good angle. Because most Brit Spam players rely on some easy misplays rather than intentional placements, usually in double or triple elixir time. The third step is turning your defense into a counter push. Brit Spam collapses the moment you survive their burst of pressure. Their defensive structure isn't made for dealing with stacked units. It's designed for punishing inefficient elixir usage. That means if you defend with a Knight, Valkyrie, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Baby Dragon, or even a simple defensive sequence that leaves one healthy troop alive, sending it down the lane forces massive value. I've seen countless Brit Spam players crumble because they spent everything at the bridge and had nothing left over to stop a Mini P.E.K.K.A walking straight to their tower. The final key principle to beating Brit Spam is understanding that it relies heavily on timing and momentum, not strength. If you shut down the first two waves of pressure effectively, most Brit Spam players run out of good cycle patterns. They stop playing in the rhythm and start throwing random cards hoping something connects. Once you notice their key cards, like the Boss Bandit, Ghost, Ram Rider, or even their Battle Ram are out of cycle, you can safely pressure the opposite lane or even the same lane without any fear. When you take control of the tempo, the matchup shifts instantly in your favor and you're going to be winning a lot more games than usual. Coming in at number 3, we got Siege. Siege is one of the most unique and polarizing archetypes in Clash Royale. And if you've ever played ladder, you know exactly what kind of player uses it. Siege players have one personality trait. They care about only one thing: the lock. It doesn't matter if they're down 1000 damage, as they just want a solid connection. Most players lose to Siege not because Siege is strong, but because they let it play the matchup on its own terms. Once you take that away, Expo and Motor become some of the easiest win conditions to shut down. The first and most important rule is simple: tank into the building. Don't play troops behind your tower. This is the biggest mistake people make. I've seen so many players panic and drop a troop at the back, and that instantly gives the Expo a lock. The only situation that's acceptable is if you have a massive elixir lead and you're trying to overwhelm, or you have a reset card for the Expo. If you place your tank, whether it's a Knight, Valkyrie, Giant, Ice Golem, Royal Giant, or even a surviving troop from your previous push at the bridge, the Expo never locks onto the tower. It's that simple. Your tank soaks the entire beam, the Expo basically burns itself out, and the Siege player loses their entire win condition for the next 30 seconds. The second tip is pressuring the opposite lane every single time they set up. Siege players are some of the worst multitaskers in the game. They want their perfect Tesla placement, their archers neatly positioned, their skeletons ready to go, and a comfortable clean cycle with absolutely zero pressure on them. The moment you force them to juggle both lanes, everything falls apart for them. The Motor and the Expo depends on total control of the board. If you split their attention, most Siege players can protect their win condition, and suddenly the lock they hope for never happens. The third key tip is to avoid over defending a dead building. This is one of the most common mistakes I see players make. They panic over half dead Expo and dump extra elixir just into defending a push they've already won. If your tank is already shredding the Expo and it's halfway gone, stop spending elixir into it. Let it die. Save your elixir for the next cycle, because Siege matchups are won by timing, not overcommitment. Siege players rely on you making inefficient trades so they can regain control. When you stop falling for that trap, they lose the rhythm of their deck completely. Here's the real secret: the moment you force a Siege player into negative elixir by pressuring the opposite lane, the entire deck turns from annoying to a free win. Coming in at number 4, we got Control. I call Control decks the quiet assassins of Clash Royale. They're not flashy like Brit Spam, they're not explosive like Beatdown, they don't really overwhelm you with speed or brute force. Instead, they slowly squeeze the match away from you, one perfect defense at a time. Their entire game plan is built around patience, efficiency, defending cleanly, gaining positive trades, turning surviving troops into counter pushes, and repeating that cycle until you're out of answers. Whether it's P.E.K.K.A control, minor control, graveyard control, you name it, the philosophy is the same. These decks punish bad elixir usage all the time. If you overspend by even one card, you'll find your tower chunked down by a surviving troop you forgot about. And if you give them too much room to defend comfortably, they'll slowly take over the pacing of the match, which will be impossible to stop. The first step into flipping the control matchup is forcing them to defend early. Control players hate committing elixir before they understand your win condition. They want to react, not initiate. They want to see your card rotations, understand your game plan, and then start denying everything you're trying to do. A small push early completely breaks their mental rhythm. Even as something simple as miner plus a support troop or a cheap pressure combo forces them to spend elixir they didn't want to use yet. The second tip is not clumping up your troops. This is the #1 mistake I see people make against control decks. Fireball, poison, lightning, these cards are the backbone of nearly every single control variant deck. If you give them value even once, the matchup becomes significantly harder. Against control, spacing is everything. Drop your units far apart, place them at a different height or different sides on the board. Make them work for every spell they throw. The third step and the true secret to beating control is to counter pressure the opposite lane after every single defense when you have the chance to. Control decks rely on a simple idea: defend, use surviving troops, create a counter push, and then go for the damage. But if you pressure the opposite lane right after they defend, they can't use their leftover troops on offense. They're forced to split their elixir, which instantly breaks their counter push. You're essentially telling them, no dude, you don't get free value from the Knight, Valkyrie, P.E.K.K.A, or whatever card you just used. Once a control player has to divide their elixir between two lanes, their entire structure collapses. Their counter push dies, their cycle falls out of sync, and they lose the ability to control the pace of the match. Here's a real pro tip: keep your eye on their heavy defensive card, the big, tanky, high value unit. Whether it's the P.E.K.K.A, Valkyrie, Fisherman, or the Hunter, once they drop it in one lane, you immediately pressure the opposite lane or look for a chance to get a lot of value on the other side. I've seen countless control players crumble under pressure because they played their tank or their main card on the wrong side and suddenly had no way to defend the other lane without messing up their cycle completely. This is a key tip if you want to beat control matchups all the time. Coming in at number 5, we got Cycle. Cycle decks win because they dictate the tempo of the match. They strike before you're even ready, defend with basically nothing, and attack again before your best counter is back in hand. I've seen this happen countless times. A player defends a Hog Rider perfectly, relaxes for 2 seconds, and bam, our next Hog is already at the bridge while their building is still like 3 cards away. And that's exactly why you need a completely different approach to beat it. The first and the most important tip to beat Cycle is to keep your main counter always in rotation. If you're facing Hog, you must keep your building ready. If it's Miner, you need your best Miner counter in hand. If it's Balloon, you need your air defense prepared for every single cycle. This isn't optional. The Cycle player's entire win condition revolves around catching you off guard once. If you ever let them land a push while your counter is out of rotation, they get guaranteed damage. Your job is simple: make sure you track their win condition all the time. If you do that, the matchup becomes dramatically easier. The second main rule is defending cheap, not heavy. Cycle decks want you to overspend. The moment you drop a 6 elixir troop to stop a 4 elixir push, they punish the other lane or cycle back to their win condition before you're even ready. You beat cycling by defending efficiently. Knight, skeletons, ice spirit, bomb tower, cannon. You're looking for cheap, small, efficient cards to shut down their push without destroying your rotation. The third key is to learning to pressure at the right moment. You don't need to be as fast as they are. You just need to pressure when their key counter is out of hand. Once you force their best defensive tools out of cycle, you can punish them the same way they punish you. Cycle decks crack the moment you stop their rhythm. Here's the pro tip: count their cycle. Cycle players are predictable, especially the normal ones. If you know their Hog is 3 cards away or their Miner is back in hand now, you can choose when to defend and when to punish. Cycle decks collapse when they lose tempo. Take that away and suddenly the fastest decks in the game become the easiest to dismantle. Finally, coming in at number 6, we got one of the most overused archetype, Bait. Bait decks are pure mind games. They beat you by tricking you into wasting your spell. Every card exists to pull your attention away so that cards like the Goblin Barrel or other bait cards can get chip damage and slowly DPS your tower. But once you understand how bait players think, the entire archetype becomes much easier to shut down. The first rule is saving your spell for cards like the Goblin Barrel and other main bait win conditions. It sounds simple, but bait players rely on you breaking this rule. The moment you panic and spend your spell on a princess or a goblin gang, they drop the Goblin Barrel or the Skeleton Barrel and take take guaranteed damage. If they can't get barrel value, the deck loses its main form of pressure. Just make sure to focus on your spells. The second key is learning barrel placements. Bait players love getting fancy with their tiles. Deep barrels, side barrels, front barrels, offset barrels. I've seen countless players take a lot of damage just because they didn't understand a slightly shifted barrel. Once you learn these placements, you'll instantly remove one of Bait's biggest advantages. The third step is activating King Tower as early as possible. If you have the Tornado in your deck, the matchup becomes dramatically easier. A single early King Tower activation reduces the Goblin Barrel damage by nearly half, or outthink twice as hard just to keep up. Here's the final secret. Predicting even one barrel puts you at a massive advantage. If you deny the barrel and stay 1 or 2 elixir above, Bait loses all the tempo and usually resorts to desperate rocket cycling, which you can capitalize on. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you want to know the secret to winning more games in Clash Royale, click on this video. Bye.